State police believe Charlotte is in serious danger, in part due to the overnight low temperatures.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. At the time I'm recording this, 9-year-old Charlotte Sena, a 4th grader from Greenfield, New York, has been missing for more than 24 hours. An Amber Alert is currently in effect, meaning the authorities believe she is in imminent danger. Currently, a massive search has been mobilized to try to find the little girl. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Bear in mind I've covered lots of missing persons cases in writing, in books, and also on this channel. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So what have we learned? These are the circumstances of the case as they currently stand. At 6:15 p.m. on a beautiful Saturday evening, Charlotte wanted to bicycle Loop A of the Moreau Lake State Park on her own. It's not a very big loop, so she ought to have been back in 5 minutes or less. But when Charlotte hadn't returned after 15 minutes, her parents started calling and searching for her, and soon other campers in the area did the same. After searching for about 30 minutes at around 6:45 p.m., after finding her bicycle but not Charlotte, her family raised the alarm. The state police quickly arrived on the scene and initiated a search that lasted hours using dogs, drones, helicopters, airboats, and ATVs. Charlotte was last seen wearing an orange tie-dye Pokemon shirt, dark blue pants, black Crocs, and important, a grey bike helmet. Having found nothing following an exhaustive search, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Mazzoni believes little Charlotte may have fallen prey to foul play of some sort, although he didn't use the word foul play, he used a far more specific word. He said, "We took that step of issuing the Amber Alert because we felt after our exhaustive search, when we couldn't find her, it was quite possible that an you-know-what had taken place." Now, I think the emphasis there needs to be on the word possible. It was quite possible, but it's certainly not a foregone conclusion. And there's quite a lot of media and social media that are using this word as though it's already a foregone conclusion. It simply is not. According to another source, for more than 18 hours, state authorities have been searching for the child and have deployed aviation, and this is also important, underwater rescue teams, bloodhounds, drones, and technology experts have also been called in to analyze other forms of communication in the park at that time. That's according to what the governor said.
Multiple agencies searched the more than 6,000 acres of woods around Moreau Lake using bloodhounds and infrared drones.
It wasn't dark. It was right around dinner time, and did a couple of loops with close friends she considers her cousins. And then she decided, after going around Troop A, she said she just wanted to go around one more time by herself. Be that big girl, do it by herself. Literally 15 minutes later, she hadn't come back yet.
Part of that clip is courtesy of NBC5. Now, we've been here before. What have we learned that we can use and apply in this particular case? Well, this is a perfect case to apply the scout mindset, something we often talk about on this channel. We need to get to know not just Charlotte, but also the terrain. Well, the only way to do that is to keep an open mind, is to say, what don't we know? Well, we don't know the terrain. What else don't we know? Well, we don't quite know who this little girl is, what her habits are, what is characteristic of this child and what isn't. The fact is, there's no way to know for sure whether what happened to Charlotte was foul play or an accident, or Charlotte doing something deliberately and then perhaps getting herself into trouble. Certainly, it's too soon to know for sure which of those alternatives is the most likely. Obviously, every hour that passes it does seem confirmation of a sort that something serious may have happened to this little girl. It should be emphasized, and you heard it in the clip played at the beginning, that the imminent threat Charlotte faced going into that evening included exposure to cold overnight temperatures. So it's not just that there's one potential scenario that is at play here. And now we go into the next area that we need to focus on, the mapping the terrain, getting to know the characteristics of this area. Now, just as in the Kylie Rodney case, we are dealing here with tricky asymmetrical terrain. There are woods, there are bodies of water, there are winding trails, all of this within the fabric of a state park which lies within a larger area that we need to get to know intimately. I'm disappointed the authorities haven't bothered to produce a proper map of the area indicating where Charlotte went missing. And what this suggests is that they are not being careful enough about the idiosyncrasies of this particular area. We know that she disappeared somewhere along Loop A. Well, where exactly? On close examination, we can see what we are dealing with here is a park that is basically situated around a lake, and Loop A is very close to an inlet of the lake. This raises an ominous but also obvious question. If the point of the park itself is to enjoy views of the lake and enjoy activities in and around the lake, well, wasn't that where Charlotte was headed? Again, it's frustrating that we haven't been provided with any indication of where exactly on the loop the bicycle was found, or even what the bicycle looks like, or even how the bicycle was discovered. And now we go into the next section, child psychology. What we know about Charlotte is that she'd previously cycled the route with friends. Sounds like she did several laps. We also know that she grew up in the area just a few miles away. And so what does that tell us? It means that she was familiar with the area. It means that she was comfortable in the area. And if you take that and her adventurous nature, even, she was not only described as an adventurous child, but also this idea of, I want to do this loop by myself, tells you about someone who is spontaneous and wants to take some kind of initiative. Well, couldn't she have done that during this bike ride? Couldn't she have decided to do something while on this bike ride that involved something besides the bike ride? And this may suggest that she was, as I say, comfortable exploring the area on her own, as 9-year-olds are wont to do. And I think one's also got to factor that in. How do 9-year-olds think? How do they act? What are the possible options in terms of that? Now, unfortunately, this scenario lends itself equally to foul play as it does to a possible innocent accident. Charlotte's mother, Tricia, told the Albany Times Union that her daughter is a very trusting girl. She's also said, I just want my daughter back. The part that bothers me is that Charlotte's helmet is also missing. If she got off her bicycle to walk around in the forest, or perhaps take a quick swim, or chase some critter, perhaps a rabbit or something ran across the road, or a squirrel, one imagines she would have taken off her helmet. Well, where's her helmet? And now we move on to statistics. We've got to be cautious to jump to any conclusions, and the way that we remain cautious is we look at the statistics as they relate to this particular scenario. And what do we see? Charlotte falls out of the core statistics where strangers are involved. It typically happens to children of an average age of 11 years. She's 2 years younger than that. Of course, that doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. The question is whether it's probable or simply possible. So without additional information, how do we get a clearer sense of what we're dealing with? Well, we then use a true crime rocket science tool called Intertextuality. And it's what is intertextual in this case to other cases, and what do we see in other cases that are intertextual to this? In other words, when we say text, we mean the fabric of that case, the tissues of that case, the details of that case. How do they resonate? How are they the same, and how are they different? Now, in the Kylie Rodney case, we were faced with a very similar scenario, not only in terms of the texture of the setting, but also an accident/foul play scenario. And in that case, we saw people gave up too quickly on searching the fabric where she disappeared. In this case, the search area is a 4,600-acre area of hardwood forests, pine stands, and rocky ridges. Bear in mind, it got dark not long after Charlotte disappeared, and that would have frustrated and complicated the search. We are also dealing with a body of water here, and we've seen in the Kylie Rodney case, the Nicola Bully, and the Mallory Beach cases that we are notoriously bad at searching for things in water. And I think if we appreciate that, we can make sure that she's not in the water, or hopefully not that she is in the water. In any event, even with an army of searchers and the best equipment, one's got to stay humble when you're searching in water. So my advice would be concentrate resources on the lake. Another issue to address is whether Charlotte could swim. We know Summer Wells couldn't and was temporarily left unsupervised near a body of water. We could also have a Nora Corrin scenario. I wrote a book about that case. Nora Corrin was ultimately found, she was about 13 years old, barely a mile from where she went missing after a 10-day search in the Malaysian jungle involving dogs, helicopters, ground-penetrating radar, the Malaysian army, as well as local hikers and other volunteers. What I suspect happened in Nora's case was that after getting lost, when those searching for her came close to her, she actually hid away from them. Now, in a weird twist, Charlotte may have gotten sidetracked, and then as it got darker and later, perhaps she avoided strangers that were calling her name. The question is, just how likely is that? In at least two other cases that involved bicycles, Suzanne Morphew and Mo Wilson, it was very important to look at how and where the bicycle was left, where it was found. I don't think staging is on the cards here, but I do think the bicycle is the last sign of life. Where and how it was left is thus of critical importance. Do you remember Shannon Gilbert in the Gilgo Beach case? That she kind of went missing, and she was right there, and although they were searching, they simply couldn't find her, and it took something like a year to find her when she'd been in that area all along. We don't want to make the same mistake here. Now, in this case, if we are dealing with a stranger, then the likeliest way Charlotte may have been taken is via a vehicle. The statistics also tend to reinforce that likelihood. And so if resources should be allocated to a thorough search of the lake, then I think resources should also be allocated to identifying all the vehicles seen in the area prior to 7 p.m., around about that time on that Saturday. All CCTV, dashcam, and cell phone footage should be collected and examined, as well as the tower log serving that area. Well, as far as we know, this is already underway. This is a developing story, so watch this space for further details. For those interested in the Suzanne Morphew case, my next video on that case will be dealing with the cadaver dog, the canine searches related to that case. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.